Axe likes this very much.
Welcome to
Coffee with Toffees.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Let's do this.
Good morning and welcome back to Coffee with Toffees, guys. I'm putting on a suit jacket. I want you to see me doing this if you're watching live because this is for Lodeberg, who wants a little more formality in the scene. So at his request, I'm jacket and tie. I know Skim is wearing a jacket and tie, though you can't see him live over in his neck of the woods. We're just doing a picture today instead of a live feed from Skim because we want you to know just how classy everyone insists on being here. And like I said, I am joined today by my special guest, Skim. You can find him at Skim Gaming. He is the team lead over at Gozu for the news team, puts up a lot of good stories. In fact, I think we're using a couple of his stories today in our coverage section. So welcome, Skim. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hey man, I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me. I'm hoping you're doing fine as well.
I'm always doing great. I live in the life. Just finished vacation, so those of you who haven't seen a new episode in a while, that's why I have been traveling and doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. So now we're back. We're here. We're back in the rhythm. We're going to give you some good quality stuff as we go forward. And let's get into that. First, we got to start the show off with the plugs. The plugs are really an important part of the show. First, you can find me on Twitter at Toffees_Dota2. If you're listening over on Dota FM, we appreciate you being here with us. If you want to listen to audio only, guys, the new Dota FM, we're starting to really get that thing rolling here in the new year. That's mixler.com/Dota FM, and it is live sports style coverage of the larger tournament games. So we're working on casting, getting some people on board so we can bring you all that coverage, at the very least, music and updates while you are at work. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Second, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Toffees is really a great way to do it, whether it's $1, whether it's $2, whether it's just kind words. Anything that reminds us and says, hey, thanks for doing the show is always helpful. So we appreciate that. And also you can get the new coffee mug, which I'm holding in my hands. That's the announcement here, guys. I'll hold it up to the screen. If you're listening on the podcast, you can go to the Twitch and see the Coffees with Toffees brand new coffee mug just came out, and we'll be shipping that to supporters. I'm also going to put a link on the Twitch in the next couple of hours so you can actually order it directly if you want and have it sent straight to you in a one-time fee instead of a donation or a reoccurring donation, if that makes sense. So get your coffee mug. We're working on the shirts currently. If you want to join the chat room, it's coffee/Toffees over on Steam, and you can chat with me anytime you want, play some games, whatever works for you. So those are the plugs. That's how we pay our bills. Now let's move on to the good stuff. Crazy week, man. Not week, crazy month. I've been on vacation for like 3 weeks. And the whole time I'm gone, all I'm getting is messages. People that are like, oh, what about the shuffle? Who's going to what team? OMG, Capitalist put up a post. I don't know what's happening. It got a little crazy, right?
Yeah, same for me, man. Same for me. Like every day I wake up, there's like this another big Reddit post. Oh God, player XY posted on stream or said on stream that, I don't know, he's joining team whatever.
Right.
It's been crazy. And there's only been, I don't think anything's, one thing has been official only so far. So
right. It's a lot of allegations, and I didn't want to get into the rumor mongering, so I purposely avoided Twitter responses for the most part because at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that this show was not 100% rumor and mudslinging. If you want that, you can definitely go watch the Gerg show. He loves doing that sort of thing. I'm kidding, Gerg, if you're watching. Your show is crazy. Effer. I won't cuss because we're family friendly. That said, though, we are going to go over some of the roster changes as they're being alleged, because right now I think there's enough evidence starting to come out to support the changes that it looks like it may be permanent. A large part of that is the Dota 2 Asian Championships may have leaked a lot of information early by accident when they put up their website and forgot to blank out the rosters for 2 teams specifically. They've since fixed that, but we have obviously screenshot button is incredibly powerful when it comes to Dota 2.
Yes, you can't hide anything from the internet after you released it.
It's crazy how fast people will do that too. So Ninjas in Pyjamas, here's the first one. This is something that is official. It's out there. Ninjas in Pyjamas has signed Lions, I think is how you say it in the native language. And I think that's really exciting. I think that these guys have been doing well. They just haven't been getting out and around as much as they maybe could have. Having the sponsor is going to be huge. Keep in mind, I believe Ninjas in Pyjamas just won the CSGO championship about a month ago, didn't they?
Yeah, and at DreamHack, I
Yeah.
think,
So they did
on
great
home
at
turf.
DreamHack, which I think gives them some street credit to expand to new games, maybe a little bit of cash in their pocket to do it as well. What was it? Era tweeted out, the Lions have become ninjas, and I think that that is a really great thing for them. So I'm excited about seeing how they do. They're playing in I League right now. It's their first major tournament as Ninjas in Pyjamas. And like I said, a team sponsor with a lot of history. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think so too. They're a really promising roster. I really like the guys. They're really young and sort of like inexperienced, but they also have like this fresh approach to the game,
Mhm.
which makes them really fun to watch. And I know a few of them personally as well, so they're a really cool bunch. And by the way, we both missed it. They actually lost the finals.
So they went to second. Okay.
Yes.
Still, that's right. I remember everybody wanted them to win because it was
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
a Ninjas in Pajamas are a staple, old school. It'd be sort of like if Alliance came back in a year and like got to the finals, the grand finals of TI, and everybody was sort of pulling for them for old times' sake. Uh, So that was an excellent game. I'm glad that Legends has signed with them. I think it's going to do really, really well for them, and I think it's a great pickup. So moving on to the next one, Team Empire has announced their official roster change. Aloha Dances joined the roster. Now, Team Empire is a team that has undergone a lot of changes, a lot of switches, a lot of big back and forth, I guess, over the last couple of months. And I think that the team that they have now is starting to look pretty good. It's Offline, Silent, Resolution, Yoki, I think is how you say his name, and Aloha Dance. And this, to me, this is a roster that looks a lot more like the Empire that I loved a year ago. Remember that Empire who was aggressive and exciting to watch and was just, they were always in the mix. Whether or not they won, it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I agree. Watching them play, as I said, really reminds me of the old days. They're really just playing as they just, it seems like they're having fun,
Mhm.
and I think that it shows. I mean, if you check that track record for December, I think they have like almost 90% win rate.
Mhm.
So they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, so I'm very excited for the new changes. I think that this new roster is going to be great, and I look forward to, like I said, look forward to the return because back in what was it, Starladder 8, I want to say, I really enjoyed watching Empire play.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at or in general, just pre TI4, I mean, Empire was such a strong team, and
Hmm.
just in online game, in online tournaments, they were almost crushing everybody else.
Hmm.
It's just that the performance on LAN was really lackluster, especially at
Yeah.
TI4, obviously. So I'm hoping that this roster can stick it out. And I mean, I've been talking to a few people, and it seems like this Empire is here to stay. So they're
It's good.
probably going to try it out for TI5.
That's exciting. And I will say, I was one of those people before TI4 that said Empire had a chance to go very, very deep in that tournament and was incredibly disappointed with their performance there. So hopefully this fixes that. I am a closet Empire fan and will continue to be. So I'd love to see them step up. And now here's the big section we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Great Western Shuffle, as everyone's calling it, because, well, I have to. The amount of tweets I got and posts and responses on Reddit, like I was like, I guess I can't ignore this. So here's what we've got so far. The team's secret roster is pretty much solidified. I think we can all say that this is official as far as I can tell. Once again, there's stuff coming out all over the place. There was a post 2 days ago that was said to be official about RTZ transferring that wouldn't even cite sources. So this has been a really tough thing to nail down officially. But what we're looking at for Team Secret's new roster is very likely going to be Puppy, Kuroki, S4, Arteezy, and Zai. So when people told me a while back ago that there were rumors that Zai was moving to Secret, I didn't believe them. And I didn't believe them simply because PPD and Zai have been together for so long that seeing them split up is actually a little bit devastating to me.
Yeah, same here. It feels like this sort of like bromance sort of
Yeah.
thing, It's like it's as if people told you that Kuroki and Puppy would split up, It's
Yeah.
like this. You could sort of see it, but at the same time, you really don't.
Hmm. I'm really curious because I think Zai's a phenomenal support player. He's been doing great stuff, but I wonder, and as a support player myself, there's a lot of synergy that goes into that 4 and 5 combo. And the question is, when moving to a new team, will that synergy be there? Now he's joining one of the best support partners in the world, right? Like the team should be phenomenal if you look at Team Secret's roster. The question is, and Joshua Dean brought it up in Twitch chat just now, do you think that the egos on this team are going to work out? Like, this is a huge ego team coming out of Team Secret right now.
Yeah, that's actually something that, well, to be fair, that's something that people said about the old secret team as well, right?
Well,
That's
and did it
like,
work out?
it sort of did. I mean, they were at the top of Europe for quite some time. I mean, sure, they only won one tournament, but still,
Right.
like, the performance was really strong. I think it can work out because I feel like if it comes to egos, and I mean, those no disrespect, but I think Puppy has the biggest of them all in Dota right now. So if he says something, I think most people will listen to him. So I think he's the only one that can unite all these egos under his leadership.
Yeah, I agree with that. And now Cam's actually brings up, Cam D brought up an interesting point as well. He said, do you think that Kuroki will go back to support on Team Secret when you look at the roles for this new lineup? And I have to say, I think so. I think a Kuroki Zai 4-5 is going to be ridiculously hard to deal with.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Kuroki is gonna go back to support. From what I've heard, is that Zai wants to go on to a more farm-orientated role.
Makes sense.
And somebody brought it up on Twitter. I think it was Sun Tzu, that Zai. I didn't follow Han, but apparently Zai played offlane in Han.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
I assume that he's sort of familiar with that role. And I mean, we've seen him play that role already in other iterations. He played Beastmaster and whatnot on mid lane for or something like that. So I think he should be doing quite fine on the offlane role.
Interesting. So the roster, that's a secret. We're positive that's a secret roster based on what Dak put up. So that looks like that's fairly solidified. Also, some clues dropped by some other players. Looking pretty gosh darn good. Now, this is another one of those things where we can talk about. I'd love to hear about how this all went down because it looks like a shuffle kind of happened with EG and C9. These are all teams that sort of work for the same company. Are we looking at a trade that was integrated by the ownership saying let's shift our players to have the best chance of winning? Were there signing bonuses included with this stuff? I mean, I know for a fact that Fear just bought a new Mercedes. Arteezy sent on a stream last night. It was really funny. His fans said, where can we donate money to support your stream? And he said, I don't do that because if you gave me money, it would just sit in a PayPal account and never get touched. Like, how... my mind was like, what? That's how much money you're making right now that you don't even care if you want to? So, actually, we've heard some cool things that he may be setting up a charity donation through his stream. So if you want to support him, you can instead support a charity of his choice, which would be pretty cool. But we'll get into that. A conversation for another time. I can't wait till players are willing to come out and talk a little bit about their contracts. We're not there yet. The owners are still putting those caveats into their contracts. We're not sitting at NFL level. Like in the National Football League, all contracts have to be publicly put out there so everybody can see it, which means players are free to talk about how much they get paid. Right now, we're not seeing that in the Dota 2 world, so I can't tell you what it is, but I'm really curious about these swaps and whether or not signing bonuses came along with them. Second one, this is alleged. We don't have for sure confirmation on this. It stands to reason based on the secret roster changes, but what it looks like EG will be sitting at is Fear, PPD, Universe, and then adding Aoi 2000, and how do you say, is it Sumai? Is that how you say his name?
I think so. Sumail, whatever.
I think it's like
yeah.
that.
I think that's it. Yeah.
So Sumail, which I gotta be honest, I've been watching some Sumail since the rumors started coming out, and his mid play has been pretty ridiculous. He was on NEL last night. I think there's even a Reddit up of him doing a amazing Storm Spirit pick-off move the other day. So it seems like the company moved the egos to secret and sort of the quieter personalities to EG in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and I mean, I think it's really a good move by EG to try to, like, especially in like Sumail's case, to try to like foster new talent, because ultimately, if you're like, that's what people do in other sports as well. In basketball, in football, in soccer, whatever. You want to get like youngsters that you can shape into a player that becomes very loyal to your brand, that you can shape in. That becomes a figure for your brand. When people think of that dude, they want to think of your brand immediately. And I think that's what they're trying to accomplish here by building Sumail up.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done it with Arteezy before. I mean, if you think about Arteezy, you immediately think about Evil Geniuses.
Right.
But since Arteezy wanted to go, apparently, I think that was a good choice.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the kid. I think last I read, Sumail is 15 years old.
Oh, really? I heard 16 or something, but yeah.
15 or 16. Young. So the kid, it's a prodigy play. And I think that he will fit the personalities on EG outside of Sumail. To me, seem like the kind of players that if you're looking at a franchise grab, you want to put around him. Aoi, Fear, PPD, Universe, these are players that can mentor Sumail. get him comfortable in the scene, and I think really help him blossom and grow as a prodigy within the field, right? Like, you don't want to get I keep going back to the NFL because I live in the States, and that's kind of the other sport that I watch besides soccer. But it's one of those things, like, you don't want to get a up-and-coming youth and throw them into a program where they have to be the star without any support. You put them in a program where there's some big players and some senior players like Fear who can really help mentor them into a higher level of play. So I think that if this is indeed the EG roster, I think it's a really great insight by EG to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And especially the way that EG has been playing so far, like the fact that PPD is one of these players that sacrifices himself a lot in game to make sure that that his teammates get the most out of their game. I think that's going to benefit him highly, because usually when you see new players being adapted into an established team, what you see is that they're going to crumble because there's a lot of pressure on them. They have to carry a lot by themselves. But in this case, PPD is going to create a lot of space for him and going to make sure that he can develop properly.
Absolutely. So I think it's a good lineup. I think that if they go down this road, I support it. I'm not going to lie, I sort of expected it based off of some chats that we've had in the past. And it seemed like PPD was thinking shake up on EG a while back ago. So this makes sense. It also makes sense as to why all these teams have pulled out of so many tournaments. If you're refreshing, if you're talking about getting a players union going, if you want to try to reduce, now's the time to do it. And team shifts are also a good way to fit into that. So this does tell me, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, that we're going to see these teams, especially these shuffle teams, playing in less tournaments going forward, because these are some hard new rosters, and they're going to have to do a lot of scrimming and a lot of practice together before I think they're truly ready to go hard into the scene. So look for them to be playing less tournaments and playing more scrims, more NEL type of formats, more practice matches, and I really look forward to seeing that. So next piece of news here, and this is one that you reported on, so it is still not 100% confirmed that Cloud9's official roster is what we're about to talk about, but it's one of those things where if the shoe fits, if all the signs point in that general direction, it looks like Big Daddy No Tail will be joining Cloud9. So you reported on this. Do you want to talk a little bit about this and where it came from?
Yeah, sure. So it was last night that somebody came up to me and was like, "Yeah, I heard that Big Daddy No Tail is going to join Cloud9," and was like, "Yeah, sure, thanks." But when one dude approaches you and he's not really sure himself, that's not something you go on. But then this morning, there's like multiple people coming to me and was like, "Here, dude, I got this piece of information for you." And apparently he's been scrimming with them already, or actively looking for scrims with them. And so that is pretty sure. I mean, it's pretty much confirmed that he's definitely scrimming with them. The misery part is the one that's still sort of like hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
But, it's, I'm almost certain that it's going to happen.
So once again, we'll go over the roster or what we think Cloud9 will be falling out to. We're fairly comfortable with the No Daddy call. Misery is still up in the air, but it looks like the new Cloud9 roster will be Eternal Envy, Bone7, Fata, Misery, and Big Daddy No Tail. So this is a pretty big shakeup for C9, and honestly, I think that of all the teams in the Great Western Reshuffle that needed a shakeup, C9 is the one that sort of needed that. My thought is this: when I look at C9 play, I always think to myself, they don't have that motivator. They don't have the person to get everyone angry, to say, let's get this done, to say, how come we are losing, to get everybody fired up. Like, EE seems very level-headed. Bone7 and Fata seem very calm. Do you think that the addition of Big Daddy especially is going to be that shot of aggression that they need to take their games to the next level?
Not really, because I've watched C9 play a lot on LAN. I happened to be on LAN when they were on LAN as well, and I know for a fact that actually Fada and Bone7 are, especially Fada, he's very vocal. Like when teams are doing bad, he's usually one of the first to actually like point out, okay, we did this wrong, we should have done this, guys, let's try to do this. He's very vocal in game. He has this leader personality, so I don't think that's necessarily what they were lacking, but Big Daddy No Tail is definitely a big step to getting even more of that, Yeah. He's also one of these very vocal guys that likes to just keep talking and making calls like that. So yeah, it's gonna help, definitely.
So I'm interested to see how they do. Once again, C9, I think I coined it. Well, I didn't coin it. It's a phrase been around for a millennia. But I started saying it about them 6 to 7 months ago, the always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and boy have they lived up to that. I mean, literally, I think on the show after Summit, we went over the numbers of how many second place finishes they have had and how much money they've lost versus if they could just have closed the deal and gotten the first place finishes, and we were looking in excess of $450,000 that was lost by one series, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it's such a shame.
it is a shame, and they're a team that's good and players that you want to do well, right? But they just can't seem to get to that second step. So maybe this Big Daddy No Tail will get them closer to closing that money down, because it's they're right there. They're playing it. They're playing on the edge, and this is huge. I think this whole shuffle, because of the fact that Secret, EG, and C9 are those teams that are constantly fighting for the top positions in each tournament, each LAN, and now they've basically shuffled their players to try to find the best lineups for each of them. So I think this is good. I think a lot of folks are talking about, hey, is this an example of a organization sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Exploiting ownership of multiple teams? I don't think so. I think this is a case of giving us the best games possible, because this is going to make some really great games. Yesterday, watching NEL, we watched Samal go head-to-head with Arteezy in the mid, and it was a blast. So I think that we're going to see some really good games coming out of this one going forward. Out of those three teams, who do you think after this shuffle, if those shuffles are real, keeping in mind, they may change still. These are not the official rosters as stated by official statement. Which of those three teams do you think is looking the best?
Ooh, I mean, if you just go by names,
Mm-hmm.
just looking at Team Secret already, I mean, they have
Right.
like individually probably 5 of the strongest players currently in the scene. I I suppose that could be a really strong team. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Secret just because there's a core part of them that's not gonna change, and that's the Poppy
Mhm.
Kuroki part. If Kuroki actually goes back to supporting, they already know each other, so there's not really an element of, hey, we gotta get used to one another.
Right.
Whereas if you look at Evil Geniuses and Cloud9, if these rosters come to fruition, it's gonna be Aoi and PPD, both of which haven't played together so far, I
Mhm.
think, and Misery and Big Daddy. I mean,
Yeah.
you always have to adapt to one another, so I think
Mhm.
it's going to be easier for Team Secret.
Makes sense. I can agree with that 100%. And I will say, Hefla over on Twitch chat has said, stop shuffling the old potatoes. Let's give some new players a chance. And I think to a certain extent, Samai's a little bit of a new move here. And I think that he's right in a lot of ways. But here's my contention. And it's this. I think the new players are going to get a chance, but I don't think that they need to play in with the old potatoes. Like, let's talk about Excalibur for a second, right? Here's a player who showed up on the scene, did what? A tournament at the Summit, played one other one. Everybody was like, wow, this guy's amazing, and then just sort of disappeared. Whether that's because he didn't fit with the teams or because he wanted to focus on his real life, a lot of different things have been said. I believe he wanted to focus on some outside gaming world things. But at the end of the day, when you throw a new player in with the old potatoes, it can be tough. I think the way to do it is like what Complexity's doing right now. Complexity found a bunch of players on the scene who weren't recognized or well known, put them together, put them in a house, and that's an up-and-coming team who I would not be surprised to see playing in the main event at TI this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as you mentioned, it doesn't really make sense, or it doesn't always make sense to just use new players just for the sake of using new players. It
Mhm.
really has to make sense.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, yeah, I think if anything, it could take a lot of pressures from them to not have them with like a star-studded lineup.
Yep.
If you put like one really, really young dude with like 4 superstars, he's gonna feel the pressure in every game.
Absolutely. There's no way around that. I mean, these are guys who are the legends of the sport. I mean, KKY, you say you're going to play support with Kuroki, and I mean, that would just blow my mind, right? I'd be like, no, what? Okay, anything he says is true, but that's not what you want. You want somebody who's willing to challenge, question, make calls, and that's tough for new players to do before they're ready. So, moving on to the next piece of news, because I know Skim is on a time schedule here. Virtus Pro Polar has summoned up Jimmy Demon Ho for D2L Season 5. Long story short, and it is actually a pretty short version of a long story, Lil Hardy could not get a visa, so Demon will be standing in for him. That said, can we, for a second, just talk about how Demon has become the go-to stand-in for any American tournament, and when is he going to sign with someone?
Yeah, the ultimate mercenary. I don't know.
He really is.
Yeah, for whatever reason, he manages to sneak himself into every NA LAN. I have no idea how he does it, but
Mhm.
I suppose I mean, he's probably, if you just talk about sheer individual skill and experience, he's definitely the best player to get if you need a short-term stand-in in the US. So makes
Right.
sense.
So, and that's, yeah, I think that's a lot of it. He's on everyone's Rolodex if you've got to get someone to cover you because of a visa issue in the U.S. And he's going to play, so that should be good. Once we all know that he's really good at holding his breath because of the Red Bull videos, and hopefully he can take this one home. That tournament, we'll cover it as it comes up. D2L got basically eviscerated during the back end of the tournament with teams just leaving, not going. So I'm curious to see how that tournament actually turns out. I love AC. He's been a guest on the show. They've been a very supportive group over at that organization of the Coffee with Toffees show. So I really want them to do well. That said, they didn't hire me to come out for interviews, so they can't do that well. So moving on to the big announcement. This is tournament news. We're done with the pro news, guys. Here's a big one. This is huge. Dota 2 Asian Championships has come out. They released their compendium with $250,000 in the prize pool. That was about a week ago. I think it was a week ago, maybe a couple of days. And they're already up to $500,000 in prizes. That's moving as fast as the TI compendium did as well. Do you think this isn't due to the tournament value, like the quality of the teams, or is this just because people like hats?
I think it's actually, this time around, it's actually a mix of both. I mean, the hats obviously are awesome, but at the same time, I mean, the Chinese love their tournament support,
Right.
And, I mean, look at the lineup. I mean, it's basically the best of the best already, minus maybe a few European teams, but they're in the qualifiers anyway, so this is going to be such a huge tournament. Many people dub it as TI 4.5, so
yeah.
I think this is going to be huge.
It will be. So I'm excited about it. I think it's hopefully the money keeps coming in and the tournament value matches the money. So that's it, guys. If you can hear my little guy downstairs, I have a baby. That's part of the game. So feel free to slash baby rage whenever you hear him. But he is part of the show. And that's just the way it is. But as far as the tournament goes, list of invited teams that was released. And it really is following a very similar TI, which is a show for another day, and I want to get a panel together, Skim, and talk about this, how we can fix the oversaturation. And I think the key is going to be a couple of tournaments like the Dota Championship is setting the stage for that lead into TI. But the invited teams are Team Secret, Rave, Invictus, LGD, Vici Gaming, Newbie, MVP Phoenix, who will get, I think, dominated, unfortunately, and Evil Geniuses. So pretty good list of invited teams. It's going to be very competitive play. And now there's also a qualifier round. And the qualifiers look like this. American qualifiers are C9, the brand new Team Fire, Complexity Gaming, and Team eHug, who I think is going to have a very tall order going into that qualification round. European qualifiers is Na'Vi, Virtus Pro Polar, Team Empire, Team Tinker, Alliance, Hellraisers, and Power Rangers. Asian qualifiers, and this is massive, so bear with me. CDEC, Hyperglory, LAIG, Team DK, eHome, Tongfu, Speed, IMG, DG, BG, G-Guard, Myth, Invasion, Moneski, Aces, and Team KS. So Asian qualifiers are going to be a beast, man. But I'm thinking Cloud9 comes out of the American qualifiers. I'd love to see Complexity come out, but I think Cloud9 is going to do it. European qualifiers, Tinker could come out. I think Virtus Pro is looking like they've got the whole shot, though.
I agree with you actually. Like in most parts, in all parts actually, because if you look at the European qualifiers, I mean, most teams right now have real issues at this point. Like Alliance, obviously, there's still no roster yet. Team Tinker as well. I actually think though that Hellraiser is going to take it. I don't know. I think they're a really promising team, so I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, I think they are promising. I just don't know if they're quite ready. And this is going to be a big stage, so we'll see how it goes. But that is the Asian Championships, and we'll keep an eye on it. Try to give it some coverage as well. Probably not on Dota FM. The game's gonna be like 3 a.m. in the morning, so if you want to watch, you'll be watching on Twitch anyway. But we will keep you updated as that tournament goes along. For those of us who are unwilling to wake up first thing in the morning, unless of course I'm casting, and then I'll wake up for anything. So call me. All right, moving on to the next one, and this is iLeague updates. So before we go to the iLeague updates, quick reminder for you: VP Virtus Pro. Oh my God, I'm gonna kill them.
Yeah, they pulled out again.
So VP pulled out of the iLeague qualifiers. Where's that sound coming from? Oh, sorry about that, guys. Apparently, Join Dota and Gozu, both of your websites have now have rollover banners that start sound on the stream, so that's awful lots of fun. But now that we fixed that, guys, sorry about that. Join Dota, we're going over the iLeague updates. VP pulled out at the last second 2 days before the LAN started, which is just cruel, in my opinion. And right now, the lineups for that tournament are where LGD to start, Ninjas in Pyjamas, IG, MVP, VG, HGT, Speed, and Big God. And as we move forward through the tournament, so far, LGD and HGT have advanced to the winner's bracket final, and we have yet to start the lower bracket. I believe that starts first thing tomorrow morning in North American time, or tonight, I think, if you're in China watching. And it'll start out with NIP versus MVP, and then it'll be followed with VG versus Speed. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should also be noted that Big God actually pulled out in the middle of the
That makes
tournament.
sense. Really? I didn't know that. I missed that.
Yes. They played with a stand-in for the tournament, Mikasa, who is the coach for CDEC.
Gotcha.
But obviously, being the coach of CDEC, he has to attend D2L in Las Vegas. So he
Right.
played the first day, and then he took his, then he just traveled abroad. So they don't have a complete roster, and they pulled out, and that's why HGT got a walkover in there. They only played one match and are already in the winners bracket.
Now, the VP pullout, is this part of that post that the VP owner made about, I believe he made a post about not playing in tournaments that he doesn't believe are well organized or are not doing good payouts?
Officially, it is because one of their players is injured or is ill, I should say. But, I mean, you know what it is. I
Right.
mean, officially, there's a lot of things not happening right now. But no,
Yeah.
I honestly think it's because they haven't paid out the Season 1 prize money yet.
Makes sense. And I can't blame him for that. So VP pulls out for whatever the reason is. They say it's not because of the prize pool. We think it is. At the end of the day, iLeague's still a good tournament, and we'll keep you updated as we go forward on that. Next big announcement, we'll go through this one very quickly. SEA has announced another major tournament, over $100,000 in the prize pool for the major All-Stars. The only reason we mention this is I've been sort of following the SEA scene for those of us who watch the show, since a lot of our fans are not SEA regulars. And I will tell you this. I am blown away by the growth of the SEA scene. Their tournaments have just skyrocketed, their prize pools have compounded, and it seems like the SEA is really burgeoning into the next big up and coming. 2 years ago, North America was nothing in terms of Dota 2, right? Like when you talked about big teams, NA wasn't in the contest, and I think that SEA is where NA was a year ago, and we should be looking for some massive teams coming out of the SEA birthed by these tournaments, because the funding is now there, and if the funding's there, the teams can be there, right? I mean, if there's no money in tournaments in your local region, you can't go pro. So hopefully this helps the SEA scene come in a little more. Because, I mean, if we watched DreamHack, right? You saw how the teams treated, who was it that went for SEA? It's slipping my mind right now.
That was MVP Phoenix.
And everybody started just, nobody even prepped for him, right? Like, it was almost uncomfortable. I would have felt bad as MVP Phoenix, being like, man, none of these teams actually did research. Like, they just knew they'd roll over us. Yeah. And that's tough, but I think that with these new tournaments, teams like Phoenix will have the ability to really kind of fine-tune their game and hopefully step up to that next level.
I agree, especially if you consider this year's big incident with like the match fixing from Mineski and Arrow and MSI. I mean, the reason those players turned to match fixing is because they didn't have the necessary funds to become proper pro players, because the sellers they got were like shit. But I'm sorry for the language.
No, it's fine.
But now with more and more tournaments emerging, I'm hoping that the scene can hopefully grow into something where we can maybe see like 2 or 3 teams that can make a full-time living, you know?
Absolutely, and that's why I think that I'm hoping that this, and that for Hefla's point, that yes, I may have over-sensationalized how they're doing now. I think that if they can fix this, if the organizers can get their crap together, and if the money's there to support the players who can invest in it, I'd like to see the SCA scene become a big thing. The bigger Dota gets, the better it is for all of us. So I guess that's the moral of the story here. Now, that's it for tournament news, guys. We're going to roll through all of the fun that is the awards that came out. We did join Dota Awards, so it's only fair to talk about the Gozu Awards, and we're going to do it real quick while the man who helped choose all of those people are here. And we'll run through them very quickly and let you know what the results are. Newcomer of the Year was won by Maybe. So he took the win. The runner-up was Q. And that was maybe won by 50% over Reason and Ush. So that was, man, that was pretty massive. That was a big win rating for him.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these results, especially at the community results, you also always have to keep in mind like what audience voted for this. If you look at Dota Awards, like the audience for Dota is mostly European, I think, or mostly
Right.
Western anyway. For GosuGamers, is obviously mostly Eastern because GosuGamers is older and it was one of the first website that the Asian or especially Southeast Asian scenes took
Right.
to. So, obviously, it was expected to see maybe win
Right.
by this big margin.
Absolutely, and I think that that's key. So not surprised there, but there's a couple of things like the Eastern scene. The Eastern readers still voted for a lot of Western choices. For instance, Breakout Player of the Year, Zai, runner-up PPD, and that's pretty cool to me. That the 1-2 combo of evil geniuses, who unfortunately we're breaking up now, were voted 1 and 2 in terms of the Breakout Players of the Year.
Yeah. To be fair, though, that was actually the editor's choice. Below that is the community choice, where they actually picked Koi.
Gotcha.
But still, yeah. I mean, the Western players still are super famous. I mean, C9 is actually one of the most famous teams in China right now. Like, I think the most famous Western team in China right now. So, yeah.
That makes sense. So they're doing very well. Most improved player was Black. Runner-up was Smash. So Black. I think that's true. I think Black has come a really long way, and so the community felt the same way as the editor, I guess. And it's just phenomenal how much better he's been doing. The summit too, he was phenomenal. He was on fire. I think everybody loved Black when we watched that thing.
Yeah, I think everyone's a huge fan of Black, and he was crushing the votes. I tuned in for like after like 4 or 5 days, and he was just crushing. He was actually leading by like 80% at one point.
Yeah. So let me talk about this one. This is a good one. Best tournament outside of TI. So the editors chose ESL 1 Frankfurt. The community chose the Summit 2. I'm with the editors on this one. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're watching from BTS, and a lot of the BTS guys check out the show, I loved what you did. However, Summit was launched as sort of like this casual, fun tournament, right? Like kind of an alternative to the chaos. And ESL 1, man, that was organized, that was aggressive. They brought in hosts and interviewers and panels, and everything was run smoothly. I loved it. Red Eye really helped manage that thing. And it looked good, and it was comfortable, and it was fun to watch. Summit was good too, but I mean, it was casual. It was just a good time on a couch with some nice interviews. I don't know. I guess when I judge tournament value, yes, the Summit had some amazing games. Yes, the players were very interesting, but the production value of ESL 1, man, was great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as you said, I guess it comes to what you what you value in a tournament, you know. But having been to ESL 1 Frankfurt in person, there was no other way I could have let anything else be the top choice, because the atmosphere was amazing, was really thrilling, and I've never felt so excited for Dota when I was at ESL 1 Frankfurt, not even at TI4. So this was such a great tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's that one. Drama of the year. Editors have chosen match fixing, so has the community. And that really was a big drama, the Mineski match fixing in SEA. I'm surprised a couple of other big drama things didn't make it a little bit higher. I thought Era at TI4 would do really well. And most importantly, all of the awards have not chosen GameFi's DK Leak at TI4 as the winner. And to me, that was one of the most devastating dramas of the entire year. Like, yes, Mineski lost their team essentially because of this, but DK arguably could have gone significantly deeper in their tournament if they didn't have to change strategies on the fly.
I think that would be true, though, if they hadn't already been a bit shaky in the beginning of TI. I mean, I think most people realized that they were shaky to begin with, and that if anything, this would only make it worse. I think it didn't really blow over too much because it was mainly a Chinese thing. Like, in Chinese forums, definitely it was really, really huge, and the people were crucifying the editor or the journalist that did it. And I'm not even sure if he's actually showing his face ever again.
So that could be it. Western versus Eastern.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Best interviewer host, the editors have chosen Hotbit, who has done some good interviews. He's a very interesting interviewer, usually known for kind of trolling a little bit, but being pretty consistent, or being consistent with the interview content as well. Interesting enough, the community chose Soe, I think is how you say it, instead. Which is an interesting thing to me. So this was interviewers and hosts. And did Soe do anything besides ESL as far as hosting goes this year?
No, but to be fair, she did do interviews for John Dota at like
That's true.
TI4, for example, where she did like these sort of like cute match fixing videos, which I think the community received very well. So
Mhm.
that's probably it. And this category, I have to mention that this category would have only been named Best Host if it wasn't for Hotbit. We kind of wanted to include Hotbit because he definitely deserved at least some sort of praise in terms of nomination. We didn't actually consider that he would actually win the whole thing, but yeah, he's done a magnificent job this year.
Absolutely. So curious to see what he does next year since he sort of left Liquids and doing his own thing over with ESEX. So we'll see how that plays out. But Zoe takes the community award and Hotbit takes the editors. Best analytical caster. Cinderin takes the win from the editors. Merlini gets the community, but Cinderin only slightly behind. I think that these two are interchangeable as best analytical casters in the game. They do a great job in that co-caster position. And there's that argument that ex-pros or current pros make a better co-cast, and I think that that's true. But just like the NFL, just like the English Premier League, just like any sport you like to watch, an ex-pro or a top player who also understands casting and has a personality to do it is a must. I think that these two guys have that. They have the banter, they have the ability to teach, and they work really well, especially with casters who run camera very well and do play-by-play, but tend not to have the best game knowledge, right? Because they're always there to answer questions, and they do it tactfully. And I think that that's what makes them great.
Yeah, completely agree.
So play-by-play caster, no big surprise. Toby Wan overwhelmingly wins at 55%. But here is the fun one. AC and Coddle Guy both got 5% of the vote. Now, I'm surprised by AC getting 5%. I thought he'd get more. But I am excited to see Coddle Guy getting a 5% grouping because this traditionally to me, best top shoutcaster, is a category that could not be broken into prior to a year ago. And Coddle Guy, who came out of nowhere, started less than a year ago to be showing up even that big in the Community Choice Awards, speaks very well of him. And I think he does a good job and deserves those votes. So,
yeah, agreed.
No, I think everybody expected the Toby Wan, LD, AC to be on there. I think when Coddle came out, everybody was like, what? Exciting. So I know he was stoked, and he put on Twitter 5%, looking for 10 next year. So hopefully that happens for him. Let's see. Best Support Award goes to FY and Zai. FY and No Tail got the Community Choice. And not a big surprise, like we said, the Eastern votes. Ice gets Best Offlaner pretty overwhelmingly. Arteezy wins the mid lane, both for editor and as well as the community vote. I thought Mushi would take this one.
Yeah, this is probably the one where we got the biggest flack for. Just because, not actually for Mushi, but just for newbies, because well, obviously, especially our Asian audience was heavily in favor of Mu. But I think, or at least that was my reasoning anyway when I voted for Arteezy, is that he shaped a whole strategy around him. He brought in the carry or the semi-carry to the mid lane. He introduced, or he was one of the first to introduce Naga Siren alongside Miracle. He brought in the Shadow Fiend again. He made all of these heroes viable on mid lane, like PA. I think he definitely deserved it this year.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I like it. Best carry, How is going to take that one home. Burning won the community award, though. So editors say, I think it's How. Is it How or Ha'o? I'm Hawaiian. I'm Hawaiian, so we would say that Ha'o in Hawaii, but How.
Oh, okay. No, it's How.
Burning is 49% the community choice. So overwhelmingly the community love Burning. Do you guys have a reasoning for why you chose How over Burning?
I always thought that How just did consistently better than Burning, and also the fact that Burning sort of like quit after TI4. I mean, sure, he's been playing with Big God here and there, but that was nothing really serious. And we just wanted to honor How's performance this year overall because he's been a very consistent factor in newbies play.
Makes sense. Most disappointing team, Alliance. Editors shows community did as well. Runners up, Navi on both cases, and Navi US with a 10%. I think that if this was a more Western populated site, Navi US probably would have been up there in 1 or 2. Alliance, however, totally. I mean, Alliance is one of those teams that, like, you probably remember a year ago when Alliance and Navi played each other, everybody watched, right? Like that was the big log on was let's watch Alliance take on Navi. And now, if Alliance played Navi, I don't know that they get 20,000 viewers.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it was Navi Alliance in your tournament finals, you would be super happy because that would secure like 80K viewers already.
Mhm.
And people coined it like the El Clasico of Dota 2, you know,
Yep.
even though it doesn't let's not get into that. But yeah, people coined it the El Clasico of Dota 2 because it was such an iconic matchup between the two best teams in the West, and now it's more
Mhm.
like, oh well, you're playing for maybe fifth place at best.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with those votes. Disappointing, but they are a team that wears hats well, so at least they've got that going for them. GosuGamers Best Team Award, VG, and the community choice is EG. So not a big surprise. Those are the two teams. I'm a little surprised that your user base at Gozu voted for Evil Geniuses over VG, and my only thought is that's because you had Team DK on the list, so they split the Eastern votes.
I agree. I agree. That was exactly my thought when I read the results because
Mm.
Team DK obviously it's the dream team that everybody's still crying for.
Right.
And I think there if it hadn't been for DK, probably more people would have voted for like Vici or Newbie.
Mm.
But they split the votes among themselves. But I think either way it would have been deserved.
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. So, honorary awards real quick. Dedicated observers, Wepus and Script have done a great job of running camera. Community support, Vikram and Sir Belvedere. And tireless behind-the-scenes work, and I can get behind this one 100%, K-Pop-tosis. And I don't even know how to say the name.
No idea. I talked to the dude like 2 times a week or so, but I still have no idea how to pronounce it.
So Zemag, I think, is it.
I
But
think
these guys
so, yeah.
are always working their butts off. I know K-Pop was never stopping at Summit 2. That guy is hardcore parkour, so he did a great job and deserved the honoraries. Now, we'll do this real quick before we sign off. It's our last thing, and I'm going to run through it fast because the results were frustrating in a lot of ways, to say the least. So let's let's talk real quick about the Reddit Awards. Now, before we do that, somebody did bring up No Nahaz Love for Gozu Gaming, and I do have to comment on that because I got on Join Dota about it when they didn't put Nahaz in their list. Now, here's the thing, though. Gozu didn't run a category that said most, what is it, community member, I think, or biggest community member for the year. And I think
exactly.
Nahaz deserved a nod there. And when I complained about it, he showed up in the honorary awards. And I will say that's probably not because of me, but I'm going to take credit for it because it makes me laugh. Gozu did not have a category, so I don't think there was anywhere that Nahaz really fit in the categories for Gozu Gaming.
Yeah, we were considering doing something like, you know, honorary in terms of like more like statsman and whatever. But at the same time, I mean, there's so many people you want to honor. You know, if you start honoring all of them, it becomes like, oh,
Right.
now we left this dude out, even though he sort of deserves it as well.
Absolutely.
And since Nahaz was already honored by Join Dota themselves, we just decided, yeah, you know, whatever.
Makes sense.
Just let it go then.
It was awful kind of Nahaz, or Join Dota to honor their own stat man. Though, I give Nahaz crap about that. So, so we'll go to the Reddit Awards real quick. Favorite match was the All-Star match in Summit 2. This is an example of how Reddit has a short-term memory. Though I'm going to say the All-Star match in Summit 2 was actually really awesome, though. So I'm not going to fault Reddit for choosing that one. And then, of course, the C9 Alliance game in ESL 1 Frankfurt was the runner-up. And that was, if you never watched that game, go back and watch it. Game 2 of the quarterfinals was phenomenal. So check that one out.
My throat was sore for like a week just because of that game.
Dude, that game was amazing.
It was so amazing. I mean, I was sitting there in the stadium and I couldn't. I mean, sure, I was rooting for C9, but I just was rooting for the game to never end because it was so amazing. It was so close.
It was super. It was awesome. All right, so favorite tournament, XMG Captain's Draft took the win over Summit 2 and the International. And what I think this is XMG was a very unique tournament. And I like that they do it. They do this Captain's Draft mode. They have a different style of casting. It's very relaxed. And I think people enjoyed that. It was an online-only tournament with the intention of being nothing more. And that was refreshing and fun to see. And I think that made it a really, really great tournament. Whereas International, Frankfurt, all of these are going to kind of split the votes because they're what you're looking at for traditional tournament styles.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest appeal is just the genuine approach by especially Sunsven and Syndran, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like they're not trying to be someone they're not. They're just genuinely themselves and just, you know, having fun. And I think the audience picks up on that.
Absolutely. Favorite player, Black and Big Daddy. Not a big surprise. Sweethearts of the Reddit. Favorite content creators. This was an interesting one that a lot of folks got, well, some folks got a little bit grumpy about. Noob from UA took the win here as content creator. Now, I want to first say the nominations in the category was questionable in the sense of what is content creation. But Noob from UA takes the win. He does a lot of reposting of things, but he also puts together highlight reels. So I've watched a good amount of his stuff. Appreciate him getting recognition. But the question is, does he qualify as a content creator? And that's I guess that's one we'll just leave out there in the universe to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the comments you're referring to, and I mean, I agree to some extent, but I can also see the people that voted for him because obviously, like,
Right.
people watch his stuff. He does create a lot of sort of unique content with his highlight reels as well. So I can't really blame people for voting for him.
But here's and I guess this is my soapbox. And Noob, if you're listening, it's nothing against you. I think you put out some good stuff, and your service is valuable in the way that you do it. That said, content creation, we're looking at guys like Rust and stuff. So he's come up with Tales from the Trench, which has a huge viewer base, and he busts his butt to put together. Whether or not you like Sir Action Slacks, his voices, his stupid voices stuff is a great example of created content. People who are going out of their way to start to finish, create something out of scratch, and edit and research and prep, I think that deserves recognition. And that's something that when we talk about content creation, I don't think people look at. Like we were talking about in Twitch chat, the behind the scenes stuff, no one ever really looks at. That's a lot of work that goes into those editing and a lot of that stuff. Whereas reposting a tournament with a couple of highlight cuts, maybe not as big of a content creation, but we'll leave that soapbox. I've been on it. I'm jumping off. Best overall post. This is just Black for his second most incredible super AMA. People love the AMAs, man, on Reddit, and Black's one was good. Let's see what else. Most helpful post. Last hitting under the tower. So that's actually, I haven't read that one. I'm going to have to go check it out.
Yeah, I'm checking it out right now as well.
So
I guess it's good.
Yeah, people say it's good. So Reddit, listen, for the mob mentality of Reddit, I will say this. It's a great resource. There's really good stuff comes out there. It's a great job to point at big articles. Yes, Reddit hates someone one week and loves them the next, but at the end of the day, Reddit is probably our number one avenue for getting information quickly and aggressively. So if something like this comes up, that's super helpful.
Dude, that hurts. You can't say that when I'm on show.
What do you mean? Oh, because Gozu? But here's the thing, like, I don't know. I feel like half the articles that we show up on the sites, like, you guys are still writing when Reddit breaks it. So
you're completely right. I mean, the way Reddit works, it's definitely always going to be that way because, I mean, for Reddit, you don't have to write up a whole news. You just post a link. You know?
Yep.
So it's always going to be that way. I'm not complaining at all or something. I was, yeah.
Well, and also,
I visit Reddit like every day.
Absolutely, and every time that I get eviscerated on Reddit, I learn a little something. So, as bad as it can get, it's also incredibly helpful. So it's a necessary evil, and I think a valuable thing. Most entertaining post was too long didn't read the grand finals summary, which I think was pretty funny. The biggest subreddit member is Sir Belvedere, which I think makes sense, and the biggest community figure is Owie2000. So that's who got the MVP votes there. So that is the Reddit Awards. A little bit wonky in some places, but for the most part, an awful lot of fun. So that is our news for the day, guys. A big shout out to our guest Skim from GosuGamers joining us. I appreciate you being here. Do you have any shout outs or thoughts you want to share with the people while we've got them captured?
Guys, don't get too worried about the roster shuffles. It's going to be all over hopefully soon.
Yeah.
So don't go nuts about it. I mean, sure, people are going to tease you on Twitter about it, but you know, if you're annoyed by all the teasing, just don't mind it at all. Thanks for having me on the show. You can follow me on Twitter, Skim Gaming. Yeah, shameless plug. Another shameless plug. I conducted an interview with Fluff and Stuff.
Nice.
Which is up on GosuGamers right now.
Nice. Well, check that out. So an interview with the Fluff and Stuff from the new team Fire, who I like the name. I think it fits their situation of how they came together. Glad to see Ush back on a team and able to stay with Fog. So this should be, I think Fire. I think it's a good lineup for Fire. So we'll keep an eye on them and cover their progression on the show. Check out the interview over on Gozu. And thanks for listening, guys. Remember, you can follow me at Toffees_Dota2. If you like the show and you want to support it and keep the content coming, Patreon.com/Toffees is the best way to support the show and the best way to get the brand new coffee. I twist it there so the camera can see it. Coffee with Toffees coffee mug. We'll also put a link up on the Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Toffees_Dota2. Hopefully today, if I can get it made for PayPal, so you can just order a mug directly if you want it. That said, guys, that's the whole show that we've got for you today. We appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful day. Play more Dota. And as always, Toffees out.